to another episode of Always Up to Date. I'm Denise and this is Yahweh, and we are the co-owners of Always Bookkeeping. How's it going, Yahweh?
Good.
Yeah, it's kind of cold here in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's all I can say, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, winter has kind of hit and we're trying to get used to it, but we'll be good. Just before we get started today, I just want to remind you guys about our business boot camp that's on Saturday, November 23rd. If you are interested in coming, feel free to contact us, or you can go to Eventbrite and just look up Business Boot Camp. It's put on by Spurl and Associates, and you can just register there. It's $20 for a ticket, and you'll get way more than $20 worth of information. So if you're looking for something to do on Saturday, November 23rd, we just encourage you to come out and meet us. And it's a great time to hang out with other entrepreneurs, just kind of get their stories, maybe get some information from them. You can ask us questions, you can ask an accountant. We have lots of other people there that are going to be presenting that have lots of knowledge. And you know, the big thing about it is that it's actual entrepreneurs that are working in their business and trying to get their business to grow just like you guys. And so the questions that you have, they've probably dealt with it and can answer it for you. It's realistic questions, and like I said, $20, that's it. So yeah.
And if you can't make it this time, we do it every 3 months.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about childcare expenses. And our quote is from Jim Collins, who's the author of 6 books. And his quote is, "Discipline is the greatest thing in the world. Where there's no discipline, there is no character. And without character, there's no progress." And the statistic that we have is from the Fraser Institute. The average Canadian pays 43% of income taxes. That's the tax, CPP, EI, GST, fuel tax, things like that. And by comparison, on average, only 37% of the remaining income goes towards basic necessities like shelter, food, and clothing. So we always get people coming in, and so we're going to use Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And they came in to meet with us about their tax returns, and it turns out that Mrs. Smith is needing to go back to work, and they have to put baby Smith into childcare. And so they're just wondering what they can claim for on their personal taxes for childcare. So do you have some questions for us, Yahweh?
Yes. So first one I have is, can anyone claim childcare?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Can anybody claim childcare? The short answer is no, not anybody. In order to claim childcare, the person claiming it has to need the childcare in order to hold employment, to carry on a business, or to attend a designated education institute, so university, college. You'd have to go online and see what the CRA considers a designated education institute, or somebody that's doing research that's funded by a grant. Those are people that can claim childcare on their taxes. So you can't claim childcare if you and your husband or your wife just want to go and have a night out on the town, and you know, if you have childcare expenses for that has to come out of your own pocket.
All right. Does my child have to be a certain age to claim childcare?
Yes. So in order to claim the childcare, your child needs to be 17 or under at the end of the tax year. There's only one exception to this, and that's if your child has a disability and depends on you for their care. Then they can be older than 17. But for just a child, regularly what it is 17 or under. And again, they have to be 17 at the end of the tax year.
Right. Can childcare expenses be paid to anyone?
So the childcare expenses can be paid. It has to be a Canadian resident, and it can be like a babysitting, somebody babysitting your child, a daycare center, a boarding or sports school, a day or summer or boarding camp. So any of those types of things. If you put your kids in summer camp for 2 weeks, you can use that as long as it's like a day, the full day. The one thing that you can't do is that sometimes you have to pay extra for fees at school. You can't claim any payments made to an educational institution for regular learning or regular educational programs. So if you have to pay a little bit extra for a field trip or extracurricular sports at school, that can't be claimed.
Can I claim payments to a relative for childcare?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So you cannot pay or claim payments to an immediate relative. You can for like a niece, a nephew, an uncle, or an aunt. But if you're paying your 16-year-old daughter to take care of your 4-year-old son, you can't claim those expenses. But if you have a niece, a nephew, an aunt, or an uncle, you can claim those.
And just one note, if you are using an individual to take care of your child, normally if it comes to an audit, they usually ask for the SIN number the SIN of the person who is taking care of your child. So just let them be aware that you were reporting them as, as a childcare expense on your end, because most likely they will have to report that income on their end as well to match your expense.
That's right. Yeah.
So can both parents claim the deduction?
So normally it's just one parent or the other that claims it, but if both parents are claiming it, they can, but it cannot exceed the maximum deduction that can be claimed by one parent. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, so both can claim if they want to, if that works better. But again, it can't exceed the maximum amount that you can claim.
Right. What childcare expenses can be claimed for a boarding school or summer camp?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, you can, if you send your child to boarding school or to a summer camp for a couple of weeks, you can claim that. So you can't, the amount can't exceed $275 per week for a child that is eligible for the disability amount. You can't exceed $200 a week for a child who's under 7, and it can't exceed $125 a week for non-disabled over 6 but under 17. And then also the $125 per week, it can't exceed that for a child that's over 17, that's disabled, but doesn't, or is ineligible for the disability amount. So does that make sense? Like there's different amounts that you can claim depending on the age of your child and whether they're disabled or not, and whether they are eligible or ineligible for the disability amount.
Right. Is there a limit of how much childcare expenses can be claimed?
Yeah, so there is a limit. So the amount that you claim cannot exceed the lesser of 2/3 of the taxpayer's income, or the sum of $11,000 for a child eligible for the disability tax credit, $8,000 for a child under 7, $5,000 for a non-disabled child over 6 but under 17, and $5,000 for a child who's over 17 and disabled but that's ineligible for the disability amount.
Yeah, so good tax planning here for business owners who uses their childcare expenses. I know a lot of accounting firms use, a mix of salary and dividend. If that's the case, let them know that you are claiming childcare expenses so that they would be able to give you enough salary to claim those expenses, to claim those deductions. Otherwise, it's just gonna go to waste. Yeah, or unless your significant other will have enough for him or her to claim it, then you won't be able to use the deduction.
Right.
Yeah. Can either spouse claim the childcare deduction?
Yeah, so either spouse can claim the childcare deduction. It's usually the spouse that has the lower net income that claims it. So that's who we want claiming it.
Okay. Are there any exceptions for the person with the higher net income to claim the childcare deduction?
Yeah, so Normally, it's the person with the lower net income that would claim it, but there are some exceptions to that. So some of the exceptions are that if you've been separated for at least 90 days, beginning in the year sometime. If the person with the lower net income is confined to prison, then the other person can claim it. If the person with the lower net income is attending a full-time or a part-time program, so that needs to be 3 consecutive weeks and 10 hours per week. And the other reason that the higher net income person can claim it is if the lower net income person has a disability themselves and is unable to take care of the child, whether that's a long-term or maybe you're just ill for a few weeks or a couple months or something, and you're confined to a hospital bed or a wheelchair or something, then those can be claimed as well.
Can the higher net income earner claim the same amount?
Yeah, so if the higher net income earner is claiming the amount based on those exceptions that we just talked about, then you multiply the number of weeks or months during the year, again, by $275 per week or month for the eligible child, the child that has a disability and is eligible for the disability tax credit, $200 a week or month for a child that's under 7, $125 a week or month for a child that's over 6 but under 17, or again for a child that's 17 or older that has a disability but is ineligible for the disability amount. Yeah.
I see. So it looks like there's a lot of range
Yeah.
that we have to learn
Yeah.
in terms of childcare expenses, and it's most likely or they're very, very dependent on the age of the child and their status or whether they're disabled or not. So just make sure to be aware of those limits, and you should be able to get the right childcare expenses for yourself. Yeah. So I hope you guys find this video informative. Let us know if you want us to talk about any particular subject you have in mind. Just feel free to comment down below, and please like and subscribe for our channel on Always Up to Date. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.